Good morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn them notifications on. Back today, and I am back with the answers to all of the questions that were posted on the last video. Well, not actually the last video, but the one before that. So there's a few questions on there. I thought I may as well address them in this video. Another video coming up this week. We've got the fertilizer being delivered, or the first load of that being delivered tomorrow. So we'll get some recordings of that, hopefully get the drone up a little bit. So that'll make a nice little short video. But for today, it's just all about the questions that you guys have asked. So I'll get these up. So the first question is, what kind of parlour do we have, and would we go above 60 dairy cows? So I'll answer the question about the cows, and then we will go and have a look at milking parlour, because that ties in with another question. Would we go above 60 dairy cows? And the short answer to that is yes, but not by a huge amount more. My maximum amount of cows we'd probably be liking to milk on the farm here is 70. Now the reason for that is mainly because of the cubicle storage we've got. We've got enough room for around about 70 cows. As well as that, you've always got the situation with silage. We make enough silage to keep 70 cows for the majority of the winter and a little bit of the summer. And also alongside that is the slurry storage issue. With more cows, you're going to get more slurry. So if we went much above 70, we would probably be struggling more so than we are now. And at the moment, it's bad enough. So yeah, 70 is the most. If we were to go above 70, we'd maybe push it to 80, but in that scenario, we calve all year round, so we'd probably look to have 10 dry cows all the time. It would make it a little bit easier to rotate and give the cows the dry period they need. As well as that, there would be a few more litres in the tank. So I think that answers that question. Because the next question is, any chance of a, well, I think it's a parlour tour and a yard tour, all to do with the cows. So we'll go and do that now, and then we'll get back to the next questions. This is our milking parlour. It's not the biggest milking parlour in the world, but it serves a purpose. It is a 10-10 herringbone parlour. For those of you who don't know, a 10-10 is 10 cows in and 10 cows milking. So, speaking, it's 5 a side and 5 units each side. Now, this milking parlour hasn't always been in that sort of design. It was updated in the early 2000s. Before that, it was a would it be a 5-10 or a 10-5? Basically 10 cows in but only 5 milking. Swing over with jars in the middle. We did away with the jars because it used to take, as far as I know anyway, before my time, but what I've been told, it used to take a little bit too long to get through the milking, and the jars were a bit of a pain. I think they were starting to get a bit worn out, so we put a direct line in, which speeds the milking up, because as soon as the cows are finished, the milk's already gone into the vessel. You haven't got to wait for jars to empty. That's all really where the parlour's concerned. The parlour was put in the early 1970s. Before that, the cows used to be held in single stalls, and they were milked then into buckets and then put into churns. Now, these are all things that I've only been told, so I probably might be a bit wrong with what I'm saying there. Another thing, looking at the parlour, is the feeders. They're a bit worn out. These are old Orby feeders, and if we did a calculation one day of how much corn's been through them, and it's quite frightening. They're starting to rot a little bit, and they aren't as accurate as they should be for dispensing corn, but at the moment, they're doing a job, they serve a purpose, so they're not really high on the list to change. If I had a gold pot full of money, I would change them, but they still work as they are. So I think that answers the milking parlour question. Let's have a look at the cow yard. This here is the cow yard. This is where the cows are kept throughout the winter. And what we've basically got here is a top holding yard with a feed barrier. And then we've got a set of cubicles in this end of the shed. In the middle, we've got our silage pit and bales and things. And then at the bottom, we have got another set of cubicles down here. Along with that, there is the slurry system. So we've got the slurry, the stirrer and pump there, usually the stirrer in the tower, and obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. That there is the collecting yard doorway. So the cows, when we milk them, they come down this yard here. We take them out of the top end cubicles there, and we swing this middle gate around and then open that door. And then just through the door there on the right is the parlour that we've just had a look at. And then after milking, with this gate across, the cows come out through that doorway and then up onto this top yard where the feed barrier is. This is a feed barrier, it does need cleaning out. And that's pretty much the yard system. So that is pretty much the yard. A few little things about it, a few pros and a few cons. Now there's a couple of pros with this, one being the summertime. If we want to feed the cows silage, hay, straw throughout the summer, it gives us the option to do it down this feed rail where they eat throughout the winter without having to have them in the sheds. So if we had a feed rail inside of the shed, if we didn't have the silage pit in the middle, let's say, they'd either have to go in there to feed, or we would have to put ring feeders either on this yard or out in the field. So I prefer I prefer having the feed barrier for that reason. A couple of cons really to this yard design. Now one is that the barrier and the feeding area is not covered. Now with the winter we've just had, where there's a lot of rain about, it's not ideal. For starters, the silage is always getting wet. So if you get a really wet day, that silage is getting wetter. The cows aren't going to eat as much of it, and it's not as easily digestible. Along with that, you know yourself, where are you going to go if it's raining? Inside. That means the cows are not going to eat as much food as they should be, which, knock-on effect, is less milk. Second thing, a nice day like today. Now, it does draw the cows outside and it gets the sun on their backs. So there's a pro and an advantage to having an outdoor yard, but what you also get is a lot of open spaces for cows to lie outside, and it's something that we do struggle with a bit here. Now as you'll see just on the floor behind me, it's quite clean, it's also in the sun, and it's quite warm today, so it's quite often that there'll be cows lay in this area of the yard and over there. Personally, what I'd like to do is run from the post behind me there, run some sort of design from that post to the post gateway over there, so that then there's a smaller section against the feed barrier. But it's one of them things, it might happen one day, it might not. Usually it's not too much of a problem, but we do get the odd cow lying outside. Another thing that we also do to try and encourage cows to lie inside more so than outside is when we're feeding on the top yard in the morning, we do leave the cows shut in for an hour or so. It just means that they haven't got the option then to lie outside, and the cows that are a little bit more stubborn, that would tend to lie out, they will go and lie in the cubicles, which means if they want to lie down for an hour a day, they've had their hours lie down. I know they're going to lie down for a lot longer than that, but relatively speaking, it works. Another quick one. Anyone wondering what the cattle crush on the yard here for? This is simply what we use to put our footbath in. So we drop the footbath in the bottom, we set it up in that doorway. Means the cows have only got one place to go, and that's through the footbath. So that's that question answered. So the next question is, any chance of a machinery tour showing what tractors you have and that? Cheers. So I will do a tractor machinery tour at some point. It won't be at the moment. It's the middle of winter, and ideally what I'd like to do is get all the machinery out, get it in the field, and then just go through the lot. Alongside that, I'm probably at some point going to do a video on each of the tractors we've got, and maybe do it in a sort of review format, so what I like about the tractors and what I dislike about them. Next question is, what drone do I have? So I will actually just nip to the house, grab my drone, and I'll just show it. So here is the drone that I use. Now this is a Hubsan H501S, and I bought this off eBay. It cost me around about £140, and it is your bog standard average drone really. Now I could have gone with a more expensive drone, and with the more expensive drones you get a better camera quality, and also you don't get the fixed camera in the front like you get with this one. But I'd never had a drone before and never flown one, and my way of thinking was there's no point going out and spending a lot of money on a drone if you're just going to end up crashing it. Now luckily I've only crashed this once, and it only smashed 2 propellers, and these come with an extra set of propellers, so I actually haven't had to spend anything more on it. Now as you will have seen from some of the videos, the drone quality is not up to the standard of some of the other guys on YouTube. So one of the biggest downfalls with this one is the fixed camera in the front. The different camera angles you can get aren't brilliant. You almost, with the ones that pivot underneath, you can angle the camera, I do believe, whereas this one's fixed, so it's all about angling the drone. You also get quite shaky footage. But other than that, it's a pretty good drone, and I would definitely recommend it for a first time buy for anyone. Now the only issue I find with it is the controller. Now I don't know what any other drones are like, but when I'm up in the tractor trying to control the drone, I get a lot of interference with the camera on the screen, and sometimes it just goes completely blank. So that is one of the biggest issues with this drone. Now, I'm not sure whether it's a common thing with all types or whether it was because this one's cheap, but yeah, I think that answers that question. The last question is, just wanting to know why you guys have a Ford 7740 but the rest of your tractor's a case. The Ford 7740 isn't actually our tractor. Now, it's my dad's cousin's tractor. He leaves it here and allows us to use it whenever we want. In return, he has a local shoot around here, so he keeps some of his shooting stuff here and a few other bits and bobs. So he does us a very good turn with it, and we really do appreciate it. We try not to use it an awful deal, but his way of looking at it is they're better working and being used regularly than not used. So we tend to give it a run every now and again. He also comes down and helps us lug silage, so he uses his own tractor to lug the silage, and a few other bits and bobs, helps us out a lot. So that's the reason we've got a Ford and the rest of our tractors are case. Not saying though that we wouldn't go out and buy a different brand of tractor. We've just sort of always stuck with the case tractors. We've never really tested the water. We used to have a lot of tractors on hire at one time, and we didn't have the Puma, and we got the MX as our main tractor. We've had a wide variety, but we just seem to like the cases. If we were ever looking to change now, I think we would definitely have a look across the market, and whatever was best priced, definitely look at changing the brand. So that is all of the questions answered. I know there wasn't an awful lot on there, but I did say I would answer them, so even if there was just the one on there, I would still have answered it. So I think that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed this. Not really a lot going on at the moment. I've had the last couple of days sorting out the grain store here where we store the fertilizer for a few months, so that's not really the most interesting stuff, but hopefully we've got a bit of nice weather going to be coming, so there might be some better jobs to do. I don't know, it just seems to be ongoing, this bad weather. We're at the wettest stage now, we have been for a long time. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.